Hi, welcome to Preps Plus Podcast, episode 46. I'm Josh Hart, sports editor here at the Daily News. I'm here with Jason Leskiw, Preps reporter.
From downtown
San Francisco. We're here today to talk a little bit about football season. We're about halfway through. We're right at the halfway point of the regular season. So it's kind of, time has flown by. It doesn't feel that long, but and then at the end of that, we'll have an interview with the Whitman sisters, Maddie and Andee, from Mark Morris volleyball. Mark Morris significantly improved from last season, and so Jason talked with them earlier this afternoon. What did you guys talk about?
Talked about volleyball technique, talked about the kind of impact of having sisters on a team and what that can do for a team's strengths.
Yeah, they've I got to see Mark Morris a little bit last year and then early this season, and certainly with those two up front, they're markedly improved. Yeah. So it's an exciting year for Morris volleyball. They certainly think they can try to get in the playoffs there, and after last year being in the cellar, that's certainly great improvement for first-year coach Talia Hamer. So. So yeah, we'll get to that volleyball at the end of things. Good to have a couple of girls on the podcast. We haven't had some female representation in a little bit, so it's nice to have them on. But first, let's get into the football, and we'll give our thoughts on kind of as league play kicks off on how each of the league seasons will play out, who we like as champions. We'll start with our big league right off the bat, the GSHL 3A. Who you got winning that one?
People are going to hate me. I got Mountain View.
Mountain View?
Yeah. People are going to hate me for that, but I mean, that's who I got.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think it comes down to Mountain View Kelso again, as usual. Mountain View looked pretty decent against Union earlier this year. Now, Union's the top-ranked 4A team in the state, and I think they were within one score. So, yeah, you got to like Mountain View a lot. Kelso has played really well so far this year, especially on the defensive end. They are really strong. Offensively, I can see where they might sputter against some of the top-end teams. They have some weapons there, but certainly Kelso hangs its hat on the defensive end of things. Mountain View's just got so many weapons, and my pick would be Mountain View as well. They've beaten Kelso a couple years in a row now, and I think Mountain View's, not markedly dropped off. I think Kelso has shown me this year. I thought they might have a little bit of a down year, but they've shown so far they're really talented. So I think that game is week 7 or week 8 where they face off, and of course that's going to be an awesome game. Kelso starts league play this week with Prairie. Jason, you're going to be at that game. What's kind of your thoughts going into that one? How Prairie will challenge Kelso early this season?
I don't think they will challenge Kelso. I think Kelso's going to roll Prairie. It might be one of those situations where, it's a.
He's getting the Kelso fans back on his side here.
Yeah, there we go. Right, earning some brownie points here. So when I go to the game, I'm not, don't come back with bruises and things like that. No, I mean, look, Kelso's, as you said, they played really well defensively. They played with really good instincts, and that's number one, probably for any sport, but especially football. I mean, seeing the field, reading the quarterback, reading, the offense in general, that goes a long way. It really does, and I've been really impressed with what I've seen so far from them. So I don't think it's going to be particularly close at the end of the game.
I think the big thing, too, David Perry gets back this week. And he's just a wrecking ball on both ends of that. I mean, all-league first-teamer both ways last year. I mean, he's just a bruiser in there.
Yeah.
And that certainly will help things.
Super nice kid that relishes the opportunity he has to be mean for 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. You watch him play football, you're like, wow, that kid is mean and aggressive.
You see him on the street,
you talk to him outside of it, and he's like the nicest kid ever.
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting one this week to see kind of how things shake off. But I think that week 7 or week 8 game against Mountain View is going to be the big one yet again. GSHL 2A, you got to think Hawkinson's the favorite again?
Yeah. That's not a question in my mind. I mean, barring injury, right? I saw Mark Morris coach Sean Perkins, earlier today.
You're really trying to make some enemies.
I've bungled several names already today, and it's only 8 p.m. So we'll see what I call my fiance when I get home. Hi, honey. No, I mean, you got barring injury, you got a team that is really good.
Yeah.
Top team in the state according to the polls, and if an injury occurs to a key player, that can change things, but they also have depth.
Right.
So I think that an injury might not even factor into the league standings as much as state results.
Yeah, I'm surprised how well they've played this year. You think with Ken and Racanelli gone that they might take a step backward, but I mean, even against the top talent they played, I mean, they rolled Archbishop Murphy. And I mean, Archbishop Murphy played Linden last week, and it was a close game. So you're looking at Hawkinson as a state favorite, obviously the league favorite. How do you think they fare against Woodland this week? Woodland travels down there. Tyler Flanagan has been absolutely electric. I think he's played a part in every single one of their touchdowns this year. I think he's up to 22. He's been certainly amazing as quarterback. Can Woodland go there? A couple of years ago they went and upset Hawkinson. Can they do the same?
No. Here's why. Unless Woodland dramatically changes their approach. You have to get the running back involved. Obviously, Woodland hasn't utilized a running back in a while now, but for multiple reasons, you have to get the running back involved. If for no other reason but to beat back the defensive line. You have to get a guy that's going to push him back, make him think twice about a couple things. That's going to open up the downfield play a little bit. And two, I just don't see a situation for any team that runs the quarterback as much as certain teams have this year. It's not just Woodland. There's several teams that have run the quarterback, in my opinion, to a detrimental level, where I just think there's if Tyler Flanagan gets tackled hard, lands on his shoulder funny, or even just lands on his shoulder hard, which is going to happen at some point. And you lose the ability to throw downfield, it's a big problem. Thirdly, kind of going back to the point about opening up the passing game, just having that check down, or not having the check down is a big deal. Tyler Flanagan, is at the very least top 2 or 3 most talented athletic players in the league. But you have to have other options, period. No team ever won on the back of just one guy, and not to say that other guys aren't doing their job well, but you can't have every rushing touchdown scored by the quarterback. That hasn't worked in college. It didn't work for the Panthers a couple years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. We saw what happened there, and I don't think it works in high school either.
Has Tyler Flanagan surprised you with how successful he's been through 4 weeks?
A little bit. I mean, I think everybody knew how athletic he was, how quick he was, how shifty he could be, but God, he's been amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, absolutely stellar. I mean, I think he's got 1,500 yards and 22 touchdowns or something crazy like that.
Leads the state, right?
Something
Still?
like that. Yeah, I haven't looked at it this week, but yeah, I mean, what he's doing out there is pretty phenomenal. But I think you're right. There's something to be said for spreading it around a little bit. So we'll see it. We'll see what happens this week. But obviously, Hawkinson's going to key in on one guy.
Yes.
And they're going to contain. And they're going to send people up the middle. You're going to have to find some people, and so we'll see how that one plays out this week. The other big one, I think, a surprisingly big game this week, as far as GSHL 2A pecking order goes, is River at Mark Morris. Does Mark Morris have a chance to win this game? And if so, is Mark Morris looking like a playoff team?
Yes and yes. If Mark Morris wins. Talk about a shakeup. It's another thing I was talking with about Coach Perkins, and I kind of gave him my kudos. I told him, I didn't think you guys were going to be as good as you are. And so, what they're doing is very impressive, and they're doing it in the way that successful teams win games. They're doing it on offense, defense, and special teams. That forgotten or seemingly forgotten type of football that is not just will, but also everybody doing the little things. Busting wedges. Sorting out. Seeing the field. All that stuff that. People seem to forget about. So
yeah, and I think what's interesting about them this year, and I wrote about it earlier this week in our prep football notebook, they finally have a semblance of a passing game. Mm-hmm. Jack Shipley is such a weapon that teams have to at least be on guard, and it's just opened everything up for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to defend the 6'5" guy that can catch a pass and take it to the house. Yeah. So it just opens up everything, and they've looked really good. They really could have won that Ridgefield game by 2 or 3 scores, and as Perkins said, they got a little gas there at the end. So I think a lot of it this week depends on the health of Noah Mejia. He went down with a leg injury late last week after scoring 3 touchdowns. I haven't heard on the health of him, but if he's out, that obviously significantly changes. He's your power back. You need him, I think, to win this game. But yeah, I think it'll be. I think to a lot of people's surprise, I think it'll be very close. I have River winning, but by a score, maybe 10 points. I think it'll be close. I think Mark Morris is in it to the end, and that's a long ways from where they've been in the past couple of years. As far as the Trico 1A, we also have a big one here locally. Castle Rock's hosting White Salmon. La Center's down this year. Mm-hmm. Somebody has a chance to win this league for the first time, in a while, outside of a 2015 Kalama win. You're looking at a league that really has had La Center for the past decade. Yep. Who you got in this league? A, as a league champion, and B, what's that Castle Rock White Salmon game going to play like?
To answer the first question, it's almost too close to call. I feel like it's a situation where it's like, who shoots herself in the foot less? Right. You know what I mean? And so early on, I really liked Castle Rock's chances. They played some tough opponents early, and I think that's a good thing. I would always prefer to play a really tough team than an easier team. I feel like they're missing something, but it's still early, right. And so there's a lot that can happen. Sometimes it only takes a little bit of change or even a little bit of continuance for something to click, and that can still happen. I kind of like White Salmon so far.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my pick too, but I think the thing that Castle Rock has going for them, they don't have to make a trip to the Gorge this year. They host Stevenson and White Salmon. We all know how tough a trip to the Gorge is, mm-hmm. right? That's a long drive. They host Stevenson and White Salmon, and then their road games, to La Center and Kingsway. So you're not having to make the big trip this year, and I think that's a huge advantage for Castle Rock. And if they can put some things together, I think the winner of this league isn't going undefeated in it. So I don't think one loss is going to do them in. But I think this week they certainly have a chance. I really like White Salmon and the run game that they're able to bring. I think they're the favorite. But I still can't count out La Center. So it's going to be close. There's 4 playoff spots, but yet you don't want to face Monty or Hoquiam, so you want one of those top 2. You don't want to fall into 3rd or 4th and risk that crossover game to one of those two teams. So, it's going to be a dogfight in that league. I like that league a lot this year. We're going to hop over to the kind of the 1A equivalent on the Oregon side of things here while we're talking about dogfight leagues. You have 3 of the top 5 teams of the state right now are in the Oregon Special District West. Mm-hmm. You got Amity, you got Clatskanie, you got Rainier. Big one this week, Highway 30 Hootenanny. Who you got?
Clatskanie. Talent wins. There are certain things. My King's a good coach. He's a darn good coach, but he's not going to be out there throwing the ball, running the ball, tackling guys. And obviously, some of those guys played in green uniforms last year. and they got the talent. I know that Rainier's playing with a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
I know that this was discussed, I think, earlier on an earlier podcast, and you liked Rainier's chances.
I'll be covering that game. I've been excited for this game since preseason. I mean, there is a certain intensity, and I was talking with a couple of the guys earlier this week about it. There's just a different intensity to the game this year, and what I found interesting was they were saying that the new league, having this game not just decide a league title and both teams go to the playoffs, has added intensity, because as Easton Crape said, was whoever loses this game has a lot of work to do, going forward in this league to make the playoffs. I mean, you're just behind the 8 ball if you lose this game, and I like Rainier in it. I think Clatskanie, is one of the top teams in the state. I think they're really good. I like Rainier's just fire that they've brought this offseason. I like the fire they're bringing into this game. They remember 41-31 last year. They remember that they were leading that game and that they had a good chance to win that game, and Clatskanie went and took it from them. And they know that there's kids that transfer to Clatskanie, and they are plenty aware of all of that, and they're aware of the hype surrounding Clatskanie this preseason, and they're aware of everybody. As Mike King said, we read all that. We read all that. We see it, and I like the team that's hungrier. And not saying Clatskanie isn't. You're always going to get up for a rivalry game, but I just think Rainier wants to prove people wrong, and I'm not going to put it past Joey Tripp to do so. And
Tripp's a heck of a player. The one thing I'm curious about is what happens post Dawson Carr. I mean, you talk about a guy 6'5", runs a 4.5 40, great hands. Not that he needs the 4.5 40 because he's taller than everybody out there and he can out jump everybody, but he can get downfield quick too. And what's the team look like, and what's that game look like?
Yeah, so far they've done well without him. I mean, you look at Hunter Bolch, Kenny Tripp. They've been guys that have stepped up, but right now it's Joey Tripp with the ball in his hands. He's going to run behind a big old massive offensive line, and who's going to stop him? I mean, run behind 6'6" Easton Crape all day.
Division I lineman does a lot for you.
Yeah, so it'll be really interesting this week. I've been really looking forward to this game. So I'm pumped about it. I got Rainier, you got Clatskanie. A lot of people got Clatskanie. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited for it. Not so much this week, but we know the River Division in the Southwest 2B League is going to kick up here soon. It's going to start ramping up. You're going to have Kalama Toledo next week. You're going to have Toledo Wahkiakum the following. You're going to have some really important games here. Who do you like in that division, in a division that seems like a 3-horse race?
I expected, we were talking about this a second ago, I think there's going to be a tie. Whether that's decided by coin flip or what, but I really wouldn't be surprised if there was a 3-way tie. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but I think I see a very real outcome of Kalama and Toledo tying at the end of the season.
You don't like Wahkiakum up there?
I see. Here's the tough part for them is all their really tough games they have on the road, and that hurts. We were talking about that earlier. Here about in regards to Castle Rock. That travel matters. That the familiarity with the field, even knowing where the soft spots or the hard spots are in the grass, and obviously at Kalama you don't have to worry about that. And here's the big thing: if it's dumping rain when Kalama and Toledo play, I think we both maybe give an edge at the very least to Toledo in that regard.
Maybe, but we saw last year it was raining at Hippie Field, and you got 8 fumbles or something, right?
Yeah, that was a different Kalama team though. Also, I mean,
yeah, that's true,
and that matters. And, Kalama's really impressed me as far as how much production they've managed without, after graduating as many guys as they did, and so kudos.
I think it was somewhat surprising last week to to see Kalama play so well defensively against La Center. I mean, La Center's down, but they're still a tough team. They still put up, I think, 20 against Woodland. And they played so well without your starting quarterback. That's a lot of games that a lot of times you can see guys go, well, our starting quarterback, our leader's out. It's a non-league game. You can see them slouch, but they played pretty well defensively. Offensively, Braden Libby was able to get a couple scores. So I kind of like that performance from them to be able to grit one out like that. And I think that goes a long ways into kind of showing what some of these young guys that are stepping into new roles can do. I still like Kalama as a favorite. Alex Dyer is going to be healthy here. I think he's back this week fully. And anytime you have Alex Dyer back there, I like your chances to win any game. I mean, heck, you even looked at him against Adna, and before he went down, they were leading.
Yeah.
So, and heck, if you take away his first half against Woodland,
it almost wasn't even as much his. I mean, he's the quarterback. It's going to fall on him to a large extent, but he wasn't that bad against Woodland.
Yeah. I mean, I like Kalama atop that division.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting though. I think I like the addition of Wahkiakum because as we saw last year, Wahkiakum can steal a game from Toledo or steal a game from Kalama, and it's no longer the Toledo-Kalama battle for the league title. I really think it's a 3-team race. Mm-hmm. The interesting game will be how the bottom 3 teams play out for that last playoff spot.
Yeah.
So Mossy Rock hasn't looked too shabby despite low numbers, and Winlock and Tootle haven't looked super hot either. So it's going to be interesting to see who grabs that last playoff spot. So out in the Coastal Division, another division that seems more up for grabs than the past few years, where you have PWV dominating. I still think PWV is the favorite, but they've looked more susceptible than they have in years past.
Chalk that up to early season things that need to be worked out, and you get back into a groove, and once you find the groove, you're locked in, and there it goes. So that's my thing.
You kind of like what Iwako did last week, I think, against South Bend. I want to say they played South Bend last week. To go out and grab a win there, with you have your running back, your Alex Kino was hurt with an ankle, your running back Brandon Duke's out with broken leg. Like, they seem to have kind of rallied a little bit here to be able to kind of have a semblance of something to strive for this season.
Yeah, they've done good, no question. And that's something. As good of a coach, Kevin McNulty was I think, in my opinion, he's gonna be remembered in the state for a long time. He's gonna probably have a field named after him, I would expect, based on the amount of success he was able to get, to accomplish. Sorry, my as you can see, my speech isn't great tonight, but they've, with the adversity that they've had to deal with, I'm impressed.
Yeah, they've done a good job. Northwest 1B League, Nacel's ranked number 5 in the state right now.
Yeah.
Big game against Lummi this week, up in Lummi. You saw Nacel last week. Are they fit to win this league?
They're not going to go away without a fight. That I can say with absolute certainty. What happens this weekend or this week, is going to say a lot, in my opinion. I think Nia Bay is the best team in the 1B in the state, but I think the league and that those 3, Nia Bay, Lummi, and Nacel, are very close.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I've liked Nacel this season. I think we talked about this a lot, was like, where would Cole Dorman fit in on other teams? If you took him out of 1B and man, he can throw a ball.
Yeah.
Third-year starter, he knows the offense. They've really built some things for him specifically because of how well he throws the ball. Remember, Jeff Eaton loves the ground and pound. Cole Dorman's really forced him to throw the ball a little bit.
They run a very balanced offense.
Yeah, and my thing is, anytime you can get a good quarterback in there, you gotta like the chances. Especially, he's not one that's gonna scramble a whole bunch. He's gonna hit his guys, and one of those guys is 6'5" Jacob Eaton. So in 1B football, you don't see that too much.
Well, and that kid, that's something when you were talking about Dorman, Eaton can kick a ball.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to the special teams thing, having a guy that can, force a touchback, or, if you need 3 points at the end of a game, 2 points, whatever, they got a guy.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is kind of the rundown through all the leagues. I'll just get your thoughts real quick on the Mountain, even though we don't have any locals. Adna, Napavine, Ani, Morton, Rainier,
Adna.
5 teams. Yeah, I said Adna.
No, I know. That's my pick.
But you got 5 teams in the top 10.
Okay, even though,
what a league, right? Oh, sheesh.
Here's the thing, though. Still, Adna, number 2, number 3, everybody else. I mean, it's Adna's so good.
Yeah, I think Onalaska is really going to push some teams' buttons. Onalaska can really just. I mean, they're just. If you're playing against them, I don't want to be the team playing against them on any given week. I mean, they're just going to pound you.
And I feel like their biggest strength is the mental element to the game, and I don't even mean understanding their offense real well or their defense real well. I mean, I feel like they get into other teams' heads, and that carries them through.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all our league predictions here as most leagues start up this week if they haven't already. We're going to jump into some volleyball stuff with Andee and Madalyn Whitman of Mark Morris Volleyball, and we will see you next week.
Boom shakalaka. Podcast. I'm here with Monarch volleyball players Andee and Madalyn Whitman on take 3. So you guys, the first thing I was kind of wondering about you two is what got both of you into volleyball, and who's the better player?
Well, I got into volleyball in 7th grade just to play volleyball in 7th grade because they offered it at school.
Okay.
And I would say Andy's the better player.
Oh, okay, very good.
I started playing volleyball because Maddie played volleyball, and I would go to everything and watch, and so I was like, this is something that looks like I would want to do. And I would say that we're better at different things. So like Maddie's better at the team aspect. We just have different set of skills. So I wouldn't say one is better than the other.
Fair
I would say Andy's better.
You guys are both the same height though, and even though
I'm a little bit taller.
By like an inch, not even an inch probably.
I'm still taller.
Okay, fair enough. But you're also 2 years older.
Right. Yeah.
Right. How? I mean, were you as a sophomore about as tall as Andee is here, or
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So she's telling you you're not going to grow that much more.
You never know.
You never know, right? Yeah.
I think she might pass me.
Okay. Volleyball is obviously a sport where height can matter.
Yeah.
How have you guys learned to utilize that height?
Thanks to all the parents and guardians.
I think it's more of like a confidence boost, or if you're playing a team that has a lot of height, then you can say, I can work just as hard. Like I don't need to be scared that I can help out my team and be confident.
And obviously, getting up to the net and killing the ball is a little bit easier with height. But have there been certain technical things you guys have really had to hone to really get that kill?
Yeah, for me it was just waiting on the ball, and it still is waiting on the ball and knowing that perfect set and watching it before it comes, because being tall, you can be super early and you just have to wait for it and reach for it, but I'm still working on that.
Okay.
So. For me it was a lot of just like my patience as well, but also again being confident that I can hit the ball, and like going up and not being afraid that I'll mess up or something. So
Okay. And volleyball is a sport that I feel like only really a select few people understand to the extent that a player would understand or a coach would understand. What are some of the nuances that, especially at the high school level, you guys have learned and seen the really good teams excel? We can come back to it.
Yeah, I come back to that.
Okay.
That was a good question.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this: what's the toughest competition you guys have faced this year?
I think the toughest was Ridgefield, just because they're all a really big team. They all are really tall and they all know how to work together, and so it was really hard to try to combat that and have our team try to measure up to them. So that was really challenging.
And as far as the, utilizing the teams, for you guys in particular, utilizing teams, how do you feel like you guys have done in that regard, especially, getting assists, digging the ball, and that sort of thing? Do you feel like you guys have been able to use your guys' speed in order to get digs and keep the ball afloat?
Yeah, we definitely, we're all working really hard in practice, and there are off days sometimes, but I think that when we really want something or we want to at least go all out on the court, that we will try our best and like it's in our motto that we'll work our hardest and try our best no matter what and just go all out. So, that's what she said.
Okay. And being the older sister, what has your guys' relationship been like? On the court.
Sometimes I can get really mad at her, and I just wish I could make her walk home after games or practices. But she's my sister, and I love her, and I have to love her, and I have to love the way she plays, love it or hate it. I just love having her on the court because it'd be so different, and I don't think I would play the same if it wasn't her blocking beside me or hitting next to me. So,
okay.
For me, it's really encouraging that it's not just a teammate. She's my sister and my friend, so we know what each other needs. We know what we need to hear from each other, and I don't have to be fake with her. I can tell her honestly, you need to get this one over, or you need to play smart. But she knows how to take it, and because we're just used to each other. So.
Okay. All right. And since we got a fraction of the team on the other end here, what do you guys think of watching them play?
It's fun watching siblings.
Okay, it's fun watching siblings. Okay, anything else?
Them celebrate together.
Okay.
We have a good dynamic together.
Yeah.
Good dynamic. Okay.
Power, blocking together.
Oh, yeah,
their blocks are always really funny.
Okay. All right, Coach.
I think it's just nice to see them together. They have a really good chemistry. They kind of already know what each other is going to do. So especially on a big walk or something like that, they're where they need to be. And when it's them together, they get so excited. And it's definitely a good atmosphere, positive change. It kind of fires everybody up if they're together up there walking. It's fun to watch.
Okay. Yeah, on that note, walk me through the art of a block, especially stuff block.
I'd be on this side.
Okay.
Facing the net. I'm usually
I'll
this
be
is the line. You'll be the net.
Okay.
You're the hitter.
Okay.
You're the hitter.
Okay.
So I'm on this side. I'm ready for a block. Andy comes over, and we have to put our arms together and close it.
Okay.
We can't be over here or angled over here. You have to be strong hands, and you just gotta feel it. You gotta know I'm gonna get this. It has to be the one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a minute, I wasn't sure if there was going to be jazz hands or not. Okay. And what's the most difficult thing about getting a stuff block? Is there anything? If I'm trying to deceive you, what would I do in order, especially with two girls as tall as you? What would I do in order to get it around you? I guess it would be tough to get it over you. So, what would someone do?
If I don't have my hand in the right spot, it makes me really frustrated when they hit it and it tools off my hand.
Okay.
They know that my hand's not right, or they tip it right over us. Yeah. When the ball goes right over our hands, that's really hard because we feel like that's our ball. We should have gotten it, but we have to trust our back row that they're there. Yeah.
Okay. And going back to that question, about 5 minutes ago, what makes some of the best teams in the area and maybe in the state, kind of, in your experience, what do they do so well that makes them some of the best?
I think like a lot of the teams, they just know each other and they know what to do when to do it.
Okay.
Like they play so smart to where they're not saying they're not working hard, but they're working smarter and not harder.
Seamless play.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say the same thing, just that they know what to do and they prepare for every situation and they don't give up on the ball.
Okay. Perfect. That's all the questions I got. Thanks for doing this.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. And that's it for this week's Prep Plus podcast, and we'll see you next time.